8 Private Habits that reveal a highly intelligent man. Most people think intelligence is something you can see immediately. They look for confidence, quick answers, strong opinions, or impressive achievements. But psychology suggests something very different. The clearest signs of intelligence rarely appear in public. They appear in private, when no one is watching, when there is no audience to impress, no reputation to protect, and no reason to perform. Because real intelligence is not measured by how a man behaves in front of other people. It is revealed by the habits he repeats when he is completely alone with his own thoughts. In this video, you'll discover 8 private habits that psychology repeatedly associates with highly intelligent men. And by the end, you may realize that some of the behaviors you've always considered unusual, needing solitude, thinking more deeply than those around you, or questioning your own ideas long after everyone else has moved on, may not be weaknesses at all. They may be the quiet signs of an exceptionally intelligent mind. Before we explore the 8 habits, we need to challenge one of the biggest misconceptions about intelligence. Most people assume intelligence is something you either have or you don't. A fixed trait that reveals itself through test scores, academic success, or the way someone speaks. But modern psychology paints a much more complex picture. Researchers have found that intelligence is not expressed in a single moment. It is revealed through thousands of small decisions repeated over time. The questions you ask yourself, the way you respond to mistakes, how you spend your time when nobody expects anything from you. These quiet behaviors gradually shape the way your brain processes information, solves problems, and adapts to new situations. That is why 2 people with similar IQs can live completely different lives. Because intelligence is not only about what you know. It is also about the habits that quietly strengthen the way your mind works every single day. And those habits often become most visible when no one else is around to see them. Let's begin with the first one. Habit 1. They talk to themselves. The first private habit may sound unusual, but psychology suggests it is far more common among highly intelligent people than most realize. They talk to themselves. Not because they are lonely, and not because something is wrong with them. Instead, they use private speech to organize their thoughts, test ideas, and solve complex problems. Researchers have found that speaking your thoughts out loud can improve focus, strengthen working memory, and make difficult decisions feel easier to process. That is why many highly intelligent men quietly explain ideas to themselves, rehearse conversations, or think out loud when nobody else is around. To an outside observer, it may seem strange. But inside the brain, something important is happening. The mind is slowing scattered thoughts into a clear sequence. Instead of allowing ideas to remain vague, they become easier to examine, challenge, and improve. What looks like talking alone is often a private conversation between intelligence and awareness. And that is only the first habit. Because the next one is even less visible. Habit 2. They spend time thinking instead of constantly reacting. The second private habit is something most people misunderstand. Highly intelligent men often spend long periods doing what appears to be nothing. They simply sit and think. Not because they are unmotivated, and not because they are avoiding action. Instead, they are allowing their minds to process information without constant distraction. Psychologists have found that periods of quiet reflection help the brain recognize patterns, connect unrelated ideas, and improve long-term decision-making. While many people react immediately to every notification, conversation, or problem, highly intelligent men are more likely to pause before responding. They understand that the first answer is not always the best one. Sometimes the most valuable insights appear only after the mind has been given enough space to think. What looks like inactivity is often deep mental work taking place beneath the surface. They are not wasting time. They are organizing complexity into clarity. And that quiet habit often allows them to see solutions that other people completely overlook. Habit 3. They constantly question their own thinking. The third private habit is one of the rarest. Highly intelligent men regularly question their own conclusions. Not because they lack confidence. And not because they are afraid of making decisions. Instead, they understand that the human mind is capable of making mistakes, no matter how intelligent it may be. Psychologists have found that intellectually humble people are often better at learning, adapting, and solving complex problems because they remain willing to revise their beliefs when new evidence appears. That is why highly intelligent men often ask themselves difficult questions. What if I'm wrong? What am I missing? Is there another explanation? These questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of mental flexibility. While many people defend their opinions simply to protect their ego, highly intelligent men are more interested in discovering the truth than proving themselves right. Because they know that changing your mind is not losing an argument. Sometimes, it is the clearest sign that your mind is still growing. Habit 4. They enjoy being alone without feeling lonely. The fourth private habit often surprises people. Highly intelligent men are usually comfortable spending time alone. Not because they dislike other people. And not because they want to isolate themselves from the world. Instead, solitude gives their minds the space to recover, reflect, and think without constant interruption. Psychologists have found that people who can enjoy solitude often display greater self-awareness, stronger emotional regulation, and deeper independent thinking. That is why highly intelligent men do not always feel the need to fill every quiet moment with conversation, social media, or background noise. They understand that silence is not something to escape. It is something to use. In those quiet moments, they evaluate their goals, process difficult experiences, and generate new ideas that might never appear in a crowded environment. To other people, it may look like they are withdrawing. But in reality, they are reconnecting with their own thoughts. And that private habit quietly strengthens the mind in ways that constant stimulation never can. Habit 5. They learn for their own curiosity. The fifth private habit has very little to do with formal education. Highly intelligent men continue learning even when there is no reward waiting for them. Not because someone tells them to. And not because they are trying to impress anyone. Instead, they are driven by genuine curiosity. Psychologists have long recognized curiosity as one of the strongest predictors of lifelong learning and cognitive growth. That is why highly intelligent men often spend their private time reading unfamiliar topics, exploring new ideas, or trying to understand how things work. They are not collecting information simply to appear knowledgeable. They are expanding the way they think. Every new idea becomes another connection the brain can use to solve future problems. While many people stop learning once they achieve a goal, highly intelligent men rarely see knowledge as something to finish. For them, learning is not a project. It is a way of living. And that quiet curiosity allows their minds to keep growing long after everyone else has stopped asking questions. Habit 6. They reflect on their mistakes instead of escaping them. The sixth private habit is one that most people avoid. Highly intelligent men spend time reflecting on their mistakes. Not because they enjoy criticizing themselves. And not because they constantly dwell on the past. Instead, they treat every mistake as information. Psychologists have found that people who regularly reflect on their experiences develop stronger self-awareness and make better decisions over time. That is why highly intelligent men rarely ask only, "What happened?" They also ask, "Why did it happen? What can I learn from it? And how can I respond differently next time?" These questions transform failure into feedback. While many people try to forget uncomfortable experiences as quickly as possible, highly intelligent men quietly examine them until they understand the lesson hidden inside. They know that repeating the same mistake is far more costly than facing the temporary discomfort of honest reflection. Because every mistake that is understood becomes experience. And experience is one of the foundations of lasting intelligence. Habit 7. They protect their attention. The seventh private habit is becoming increasingly rare. Highly intelligent men deliberately protect their attention. Not because they ignore the world. And not because they believe they are better than everyone else. Instead, they understand that attention is one of the most valuable resources the brain possesses. Psychologists have found that constant interruptions reduce focus, weaken working memory, and make complex thinking far more difficult. That is why highly intelligent men quietly remove unnecessary distractions whenever they need to think deeply. They silence notifications, step away from endless scrolling, and create periods of uninterrupted concentration. To many people, these habits seem small, but over time, they produce an enormous difference. While others allow their attention to be pulled in dozens of directions every day, highly intelligent men train their minds to stay with one meaningful task until it is complete. Because they know that intelligence is not only measured by what you know, it is also revealed by what you choose to give your attention to. Habit 8. They constantly observe themselves. The final private habit may be the most important of all. Highly intelligent men constantly observe their own minds. Not because they are overly critical, and not because they are obsessed with self-improvement. Instead, they understand that the greatest mystery they will ever study is themselves. Psychologists often refer to this ability as self-awareness. It is the habit of noticing your own thoughts, emotions, biases, and behaviors before they begin controlling your actions. That is why highly intelligent men regularly ask themselves difficult questions. Why did I react that way? What emotion is influencing this decision? What belief am I acting on without realizing it? These quiet moments of observation gradually create greater emotional control, wiser decisions, and deeper understanding. While many people spend their lives trying to understand everyone else, highly intelligent men begin by understanding themselves. Because the person who understands his own mind gains an advantage that no amount of knowledge alone can provide. And that is the private habit that quietly reveals exceptional intelligence. First conclusion. At first glance, none of these habits seem extraordinary. Talking to yourself, thinking in silence, questioning your own beliefs, enjoying time alone, learning out of curiosity, reflecting on mistakes, protecting your attention, and constantly observing your own mind. Individually, they don't look like obvious signs of intelligence. In fact, many people misunderstand them completely. Some mistake them for overthinking. Others see them as antisocial behavior, or assume they are simply unusual personality traits. But psychology suggests something very different. Each of these quiet habits strengthens the way the brain learns, adapts, and processes the world. They are not performances designed to impress other people. They are private routines that quietly shape the quality of your thinking over time. That is why exceptional intelligence is often difficult to recognize. Because its strongest evidence rarely appears in public. It appears in the invisible habits repeated every day when nobody else is watching. And there is one more reason these habits matter far more than most people realize. Extended Insight 1. Intelligence is built in private. One of the biggest misconceptions about intelligence is that it reveals itself in public. People notice the confident speech, the quick answer, or the impressive achievement. But psychology suggests those moments are only the final result. The real work happens long before anyone else sees it. Highly intelligent men quietly build themselves through private habits repeated every day. They read when nobody is watching, reflect when nobody is asking, practice when there is no reward, and think deeply when everyone else is distracted. Psychologists have found that repeated private behaviors gradually strengthen the brain's ability to learn, adapt, and solve problems. That is why intelligence often seems effortless from the outside. People see the outcome, They rarely see the preparation behind it. The quiet hours. The difficult questions. The mistakes carefully examined. The distractions intentionally avoided. Real intelligence is not built during moments of recognition. It is built during moments of solitude. Because the habits you repeat in private eventually become the abilities the world notices in public. Extended insight 2. Intelligent men are comfortable changing their minds. Another quiet trait separates highly intelligent men from everyone else. They are willing to change their minds. Not because they are uncertain. And not because they lack conviction. Instead, they understand that every belief is only as strong as the evidence supporting it. Psychologists have found that cognitive flexibility is closely linked to better problem solving and long-term learning. That is why highly intelligent men rarely become emotionally attached to being right. They become attached to discovering what is true. When new information appears, they adjust. When better evidence exists, they reconsider. And when they realize they were wrong, they learn instead of defending their ego. Many people see changing your mind as a weakness. Highly intelligent men see it as progress. Because refusing to update your thinking only traps you inside yesterday's understanding. The smartest minds are not the ones that never change. They are the ones that continue growing long after everyone else believes they already know enough. Extended insight number 3. Intelligence values understanding over attention. Perhaps the biggest difference is that highly intelligent men stop seeking attention and start seeking understanding. They no longer feel the need to prove how much they know, or win every argument, or have the last word. Instead, they become more interested in asking better questions, listening more carefully, and understanding ideas from different perspectives. Psychologists have found that people who remain intellectually curious continue developing their thinking long after others become comfortable with certainty. That is why highly intelligent men often speak less than expected. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they know there is always something more to learn. They understand that every conversation is an opportunity to discover something they didn't know before. The desire to appear intelligent eventually fades. The desire to become wiser remains. Because true intelligence is not measured by how often you impress other people. It is measured by how willing you are to keep learning, no matter how much you already know. Final reflection. If there is one thing these private habits reveal, it is this. Intelligence is not something you perform. It is something you practice. Every quiet moment spent thinking instead of reacting. Every mistake you choose to understand instead of ignore. Every distraction you refuse. Every question you ask yourself. And every hour you spend learning when nobody is watching, is quietly shaping the person you are becoming. That is why highly intelligent men often appear different. Not because they are trying to stand out, but because their private habits have gradually transformed the way they think. The world usually notices intelligence only after it produces visible success. But success is often the final chapter. The real story begins much earlier. Behind closed doors. In silence. With choices that nobody applauds. Because the habits you repeat when you are completely alone eventually become the character, wisdom, and judgment that everyone else sees. And that is why true intelligence is always built long before it is recognized. If there is one thing to remember after watching this video, it is this. Highly intelligent men are not defined by what they do when everyone is watching. They are defined by what they repeatedly do when no one is. The habits we've explored today may seem quiet. Talking to yourself. Thinking deeply. Questioning your own beliefs. Enjoying solitude. Learning out of curiosity. Reflecting on mistakes. Protecting your attention. And understanding your own mind. Individually, they don't look extraordinary. But practiced consistently, they quietly reshape the way you think, learn, and make decisions. Because intelligence is not built in one brilliant moment. It is built through thousands of invisible choices repeated over time. So the next time you find yourself alone, remember that those private moments may be shaping your future more than any public success ever could. If this video gave you a new perspective, comment the number 8 below. Let's see how many people have realized that true intelligence isn't revealed by what people see. It's revealed by the habits no one else ever does.